And let's talk about our safety at home now. This is now the 13th major terror attack in Europe in just more than a decade. And it's raising alarming questions about whether this is the new normal for Western countries. Among those attacks, as you know, last November, ISIS-linked terrorists targeted several areas of Paris, killing 130 people. We've been talking about it this hour. The key suspect in that attack was arrested 4 days ago in Brussels, not far from what has happened in the last 12 hours. January of last year, Islamic gunmen attacked the Paris offices of that satirical magazine, Charlie Hebdo. 12 people died in that. Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for that. May 2014. 4 people killed at the Jewish Museum in Brussels. That attacker also linked to the Islamic State savages. July 2011, an anti-Muslim extremist planted a bomb in Oslo, Norway, and then shot up a youth camp, killing 77 people. July 2005, London, 52 commuters were killed when 4 al-Qaeda-inspired homicide bombers blew themselves up on 3 subway trains and a bus. And in March 2004, bombs on rush-hour trains killed 191 people in Madrid, Europe's worst Islamic terror attack so far. Boy, that is quite a list when you consider it all together. So what's next? Let's bring in Ambassador James Woolsey, former CIA director and chairman of the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Ambassador, thank you for bringing your perspective and experience today. We appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.
I want to start off with, a short time ago, we saw that the mayor of New York, de Blasio, came out and he was talking with citizens saying what had changed. Because here on the East Coast, we could see things were changing at our airports, I come across a bridge, at our bridges and tunnels, and what that was going to be looking like. How much are you seeing what's playing out in Brussels? Tell us about what we should be doing today and moving forward here in the United States.
Well, there's a book about our current infrastructure called Overconnected, and in a way that's the point. The terrorists are learning that by going after parts of our infrastructure that are vulnerable because either there are a lot of people around them, such as waiting at an airport, or the systems that they're going after will cause a cascading effect, and the failure to be able to use other systems, such as aircraft flights. They're on top of that, and they're getting more and more on top of it, and we have not built an infrastructure that is very resilient against this type of intentional attack. And I think what that means is 2 things. One is that we are going to have to win this war against ISIS in no small measure in the Middle East. We can't sit back here and just pretend we're the goalie and we'll stop all of the shots. Somebody is going to get some shots through on us if we aren't playing offense down at their end of the ice.
And what does offense look like at this point? Because, I mean, you hear the broader picture of how to go after them. It seems to be ever-changing. The president has said he didn't have a complete strategy yet. He'll come out and he'll give us some clues on that. And I don't know that the American people necessarily need to connect all the dots, just to know that there is one, I would say. But you have that go on. Then you have one of our U.S. Marines killed over the weekend by ISIS. We then detach part of that unit, separate from Special Forces now. So it seems like we're doing things, but kind of in a disconnected fashion in terms of fighting them, and they continue like scorpions to move across the desert.
That's exactly my impression. I think that it means probably a substantial use of Special Forces to be able to go out on patrol and to teach the local troops, the Iraqis and others. We have to use aircraft and air power very decisively. We don't have to carpet bomb, but we do need to go after their infrastructure in the cities that they control and their individual forces, and not just hold back and only fly a few missions a day. We're capable of flying hundreds of sorties a day if we apply ourselves to it. We have to win this in the Middle East, and then we have to also play defense at our own goals, since they're getting better firing shots at us, such as the ones in Brussels and Paris.
Ambassador, Andrea Tantaros here. Because we have a commander-in-chief who has said repeatedly that he wants to not move forward with putting boots on the ground, I want to shift it a little bit back to the homeland here and the refugee issue that's facing us. We have a current administration that has not backed off its plans to bring thousands of refugees here to the United States when they've admitted they can't vet them. We also saw in January 2 Iraqi-born men apprehended after they had court dates in California and in Texas on related terror charges. At the same time, we have James Comey at the FBI saying that ISIS is in fact already here. And this is really where I'd love your expertise, we have over 60 intelligence officers who have come out and said that this administration is actively telling them to scrub the intelligence reports. So change the storyline on the terror threat here in the United States of America. How troubling is this? How troubling is the situation here on our homeland now?
It's fundamentally the exact wrong thing to do with respect to intelligence. One has to let your intelligence officers call them straight and call them the way they see them. And if it's uncomfortable, if it violates the narrative, as they say, that you want to put out, which is that everything is fine and they're just like junior varsity, and occasionally somebody gets through, but we don't have a big problem here. If what matters is the narrative rather than the reality, you are robbing your intelligence officers and your military troops from getting a clear picture of what's going on. You can't fight something that you can't talk about.
Ambassador Woolsey, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we may call you back as news warrants, as I've been telling each guest. But we're going to come in now with the latest information. And, Bill, you and I were just talking about this in detail and deciphering what this means. So that third bomb at the airport in Brussels, we're learning exactly what happened. They're calling it a controlled action to neutralize that device. But they had to wait once the chaos of the first explosives had subsided. So they were moving quickly. They knew they possibly had another device. They were moving quickly to get rid of that. But then this is near the University of Brussels, a few miles away farther than that, and it's saying that anti-bomb squads are detonating suspicious objects in at least 2 locations.
Yeah, and it also points out they're not sure if there were explosives involved, those suspicious devices. They had a bomb-making facility somewhere. You know, whether it was the hotel on the south side of Paris 4 months ago or whether it was in the Molenbeek neighborhood west of Brussels. The other thing I find that is very ironic now, the FBI and Apple are going back to back on this encryption. And Tim Cook came out yesterday and he said, we're going to continue to fight the government. Last night the FBI said we can get the information through another means, another source. Right. And yet, if you look at their methods today, they're doing away with all that. Right. So they can go under the radar.
Next generation.